Thank you for taking the time to watch my presentation on Kantian ethics, artificial intelligence, and the categorical imperative. So let's go ahead and dive in. What are we going to get into today? So, what are the topics we're covering? So, we'll have an introduction about Kant, talk about some of the key terms and concepts, and look at a praxis case where we talk about a moral scenario, and then follow it up with a short summary and references in case you want to look further into the topic. So, who was Kant? Let me introduce you to the man who was known by the townspeople as being so punctual they could set their clocks to his daily walks. He was a man very much of routine, very German in my humble German opinion. So he was also revered for being a titan of Enlightenment thought and known for emphasizing reason, autonomy, and moral duty. And he has a very interesting background in because he studied philosophy as well as mathematics and natural sciences, as well as theology. Like his family was actually setting him up to be, in something in the theology sector. So what's interesting about him is he took all of that. He was an academic man, and so he took all of that information and sort of hurdled it into taking philosophy to more of a scientific approach on things. And you'll see that with the choice of words he sort of uses for his various theories. So very interesting. Also, geography-wise, he was he was born in Königsberg in Prussia, which Prussia is primarily German, but a lot of things changed around borders. So it's actually now Kaliningrad in Russia, which is kind of an enclaved area of Poland. So it's like a little Russian sector of Poland, where Immanuel Kant spent his entire life. He really didn't travel much or do anything of that nature. Anyway, he's also very renowned for enlightenment and emphasizing reason and autonomy and rational thought. And the most influential concept that he had was the categorical imperative. So, just a spoiler alert, that's like a moral version of what if everyone did that? It's the easiest way to understand it, I think. Um, yeah. Another interesting fun fact is that he didn't really have anything published until his 50s. Um, I always like seeing success come a bit later in life because I think that it makes more sense because you have more life experience. So sometimes it's nice to see that things happen later in life. He also never got married, which is very interesting for a man um, at that time. So, what are some of the key terms and concepts we need to understand in order to understand Kant's categorical imperative? On the left-hand side, I found a really lovely flowchart because I work in IT. I love a good flowchart. And I thought it was a very nice way of showing us exactly how this theory can be deduced in a simple flowchart. Yeah, but before we get into that, I thought we could take a quick linguistic detour because I have a little bit of luck on this particular assignment because I speak both English and German. So I spent a lot of time actually reading Kant's stuff in both languages because I thought it was really interesting how some things were maybe poorly translated. Like while translating his work, it showed me a couple of interesting nuances. Like for instance, maxim. Our textbook described maxim as being a personal rule or general principle that underlines a particular action, right? Whereas in German, it was a principle of volition. It's subjective and absolutely not universal. In fact, the fact that they use the word universal already shows you that it's very different than the formula of universal. Universalizability. This word is terrible. I don't know if anybody can pronounce this. I have hats off to you. This is a terrible word. Um, yeah. So I thought that was, one interesting linguistic thing because it was very much already built in that this is then obsolete to the maxim. Yeah, somehow. So another word that came up quite a bit was duty. When I was reading Kant in English, it was very often talking about this is your duty, but this is also a very poor translation because the word for duty in German is Pflicht, but duty would you can duty is sort of responsibility in English. I don't think that the sense of obligation comes across as well because the word Pflicht it means obligation and it means mandatory, whereas duty is not mandatory. Um, it's what you should do, but that doesn't mean that you can't sort of blow it off or that maybe you're just not accountable for it, or maybe you are accountable, but the duty is just not a strong enough word to really get across what Kant was trying to say here. So I just wanted to point that out as well. And I hope that that adds a little bit of value to your understanding of Kant's ethics. So yeah, his ethics boil down to the very powerful question of what principles should guide our actions, and this is what the flowchart's showing. He provided the three different answers there, and you notice how he says the word formula? Like if we go back to and talk about the fact that he studied mathematics and natural sciences, I thought it was interesting that he didn't call this a theory. He called it a formula. Like you could somehow mathematically figure it out. So you could also see, his educational background. He sort of dipped his hands in all of the different areas that he studied, which especially back in the day, it was very unusual to have an education in so many different diverse fields like that. Germans are also very, as long as they're very known for being specialists in things. So that was just interesting. So yeah, let's talk about the So yeah, let's talk about the formula of universalizability, which means to only act on principles that everyone could follow. Think of it as like a group project. If it works for everyone, it works for you. Um, yeah, then we have the formula of humanity, and this is just basically treat people as an ends to themselves. We can use each other, but it needs to be known there shouldn't be anything negative to come out of it. It's a reminder that you can't just use people; it needs to sort of go both ways, um, and it has to be for a means to an end. Yeah. So then we also have the formula of autonomy, uh, which is basically you can't play a dictator here. This is about self-governing and also respecting others and the general public. So yeah, um, the principles are a little bit abstract, so we can jump in and look at an actual moral scenario and break it down a bit more detailed. Is it morally permissible to use AI to complete an assignment? And I'm sure everyone knows exactly why I picked this question. Say about this. What would Kant say? He would say, my maxim is if I'm assigned a task, I will allow AI to complete it rather than learning and doing it myself. That would be the maxim. The formula of universalizability. If everyone relies on AI to complete their assignments, there's no point to developing any kind of skill. I would be quite ludicrous, and assignments lose all of their meaning and the education deteriorates. And long term, we move over to the long-term side of things, the formula of humanity. So AI, if you're copying and pasting an assignment into AI and then turning it in, one, I can't believe that's not getting caught. Like it really is just like so apparent at this point. But yeah, you're you're disrespecting your own capacity to learn and develop. Um, and I really do not want to be sitting. I'm a seasoned professional, as I might have mentioned before. So I do not want to be sitting in a room with someone who has a degree in something they don't understand. There needs to be contribution. And if you need AI to answer any questions instead of having that knowledge built up yourself, you're not going to progress much in any kind of company. And it's not a win for anyone. So then we have for it. So we're asking here, it does nothing for your autonomy. Um, we respect the integrity of our institutions and the code of conduct within our university. So Kant's verdict at the end of the day is it flunks every aspect of moral permissibility. Sorry. Once again, I brought up the Pflicht thing here in German because I think it's important to really understand the categorical imperative places significant importance on integrity and duty. So remember, in German, it's actually Pflicht, which means obligation and mandatory. So using AI to do your assignments is a violation of one's obligation to engage sincerely in learning and, of course, your moral permissibility under the categorical imperative. So, yeah, thank you very much for your attention. Um, I hope that you learned a thing or two, and I can leave with a dad joke. What would Kant say? Probably something profound and very German. It would probably say Pflicht bleibt Pflicht, auch wenn es unbequem ist, which means obligation is an obligation, even if it's uncomfortable. So, yes, and on my final slide, I have my references if you would like to check them out and learn a bit further. Thank you very much. Shortly, there is a mix of German and English on here, and the references I used here were from the German version, just so you know. Anyway, thank you very much for your time and good luck on your exam soon. And if you're celebrating any kind of holidays around this time of year, then happy holidays to you. And thank you again for your attention.